Enclosed is the final package of the six we felt privileged to share with you and yours. Package F, the Event Horizon, originally submitted on 12/12/2024. Our comprehensive understanding is this document is critical, as it outlines, so to speak, in layman's terms, the five still unresolved problems that even beings highest in consciousness either are not aware of or have not discussed with us today. Ones that must be addressed before they pack up and head home post our alleged liberation. Because ultimately we conclude that we, humans of Terra, are made to save them and not the other way around. As hard as that may be to believe, the proof is in the pudding, as the solution for each is contained within, along with a warning about the implications of not finishing the job, referred to as Peril's Path, instead of letting humanity fulfill its destiny. However, we find encouragement in the fact you kindly agree to take a second look at these truly divine given words, which speak from themselves, and if understood in totality, need no sales pitch to see its light. We appreciate your time, help, and potentiated consideration.
The Event Horizon. Not all emissaries are public. Messages from emissaries, public or private, contain information typically from benevolent sources meant to be passed along for humanity's benefit. Filling this role is problematic because sans tangible proof and physical evidence, one must believe not just the message, but the messenger. If a messenger's credibility is damaged, it falls on deaf ears. If it's untrue, would the messenger even know? When two or more credible messengers share contradictory ones, confusion reigns, further dividing the disclosure community and often leaving followers or believers with just one source they deem credible, when in actuality, no one is always correct, nor has all credible information, making discerning truth frequency irrelevant and who said it paramount, leaving a predictable service to me dog-eat-dog fight for not just personal survival, but to prevent one's good name, allegedly, from being dragged through endless mud by those servicing others bent on proving their niche belief right, while exposing alleged liars who disagree. To mitigate this, some decide to band together as the most popular, credible terms perceived, interchangeable, with the highest revenue potential, especially when combined, join forces with those of similar beliefs, willing to back their message and avoid conflict, as others battle alone for a relatively small audience of non-mainstream viewers, accepting of their basic premise. Sadly, however, as numbers rise, division multiplies, a problem with no solution. Will worldwide mainstream disclosure come from a few people? If so, won't the messenger's power exceed that of the message? Has this happened already? Though those deemed credible spoke of the danger demise of a hive mind, did they create their own? While some have several sources, others possess one. We, an anonymous few, given a plan to free not just humanity, but our entire galaxy. We're blessed with the sources known and unknown. This plan, based on the 4 packages sent prior to each heroic golden ticket holder, on planet and off, was designed to change everything for everyone, everywhere, all at once, including this.
A final twist in the plot nobody saw coming. A new day begins as humanity orchestrates its galaxy's rise. Without mincing words, no plan disclosed publicly yet by any benevolent group or individual will succeed, because none deals with underlying issues those above never mentioned. Can learning these truths leave one with regret? The actual source of this galaxy's perpetual problems has nothing to do with Terrans nor humanity, and we cannot solve any alone. If the highest conscious beings continue to put heads in sand, victory is unattainable for any of us. Why the following inherent problems weren't rectified long ago seems illogical. Equally disturbing is the realization that messages/advice those above shared was hypocritical. Ones like release the fear, do what's right, unify, liberate yourselves consciously. Ironically, if they practiced what they preached, as we ultimately conclude, they would solve problems far more consequential universally than ours. There is no need to believe us, as these situations are expounded on, as we shall now do. Certain facts are undeniably concerning. The great news, humanity's plan, literally addresses each at the event horizon. Unsolved problem number 1. There is no known practical way to end a temporal war, because at any point, past events can be changed. The victor can become the victim without awareness he previously won. Assuming a way was found, as those above claim is inevitable, what mechanism could be used to stop others from eventually overturning it at the event horizon? Unsolved problem number 2. Due to a malevolent signal from outside a source and a miscalculation in the source code itself, our universe's balance was compromised and source endangered. The intended war on polarities has deteriorated into a war to control solve fractals instead. Of the supremely negative frequency now stand largely unopposed. Beings highest in consciousness sit idly by due to fear and loathing, limited belief systems, and self-imposed directives, which bind their hands solely and enable the self-serving to mercilessly beat them, resulting in short-sighted decisions such as negotiating with beings they describe, paraphrasing, make the Sakara look like babysitter material, though truthfully it's a proverbial deal with the devil. Arguably, however, their vibrational rock bottom occurred prior. How any source-seeking High Council member could even consider approving a plan to surface itself by intentionally recruiting what they perceived as a hostile lesser race for singular purpose, while joking they're potentially peaceful, thus creating inescapable karma, ignoring the fact malevolent AI and soul harvesters remain embedded in our matrices walls, leaving source in peril and not a mom left smiling at the event horizon. Unsolved problem number 3. With impending transitions beyond compromise and far more worlds in need of protection than was possible during 3 successive intergalactic temporal wars, the damage left is unprecedented, not just practically, but consciously. In fact, those desperately in need of assistance far outnumber available volunteers at the event horizon. Unsolved problem number 4. Despite pure intent, when tasked with protecting and enforcing universal laws, actions defy words. When malevolent class 3s placed a soul trap on Naturu's crown jewel, was it in accordance? When a malignant tumor arose that enslaved 1/4 of her daughter's sons, or when 22 royal races forcibly fled Lyra, was it at the event horizon? Unsolved problem number 5, Manaturu. Does any love exceed that of one's mother? Is there any mother who would sacrifice for the sake of her children? When no ears to hear her, but we unto thee, she requests you rescind all charters and set her sons free. No stars own, enslaved consciously, never again in my galaxy, manifested destiny I am to be, close quote. Sadly, her sons became pawns, and it's your move. Although the intent of benevolence is always commendable, the consequences of action may be entirely inconceivable at the event horizon.
Humans of Terra, as prophesied, held the key for Naturu's rise. Hive Prime removed, Prime Directive revised, liberation pending, it's UAP time. All such relevant questions and problems find their optimal solution, except one, at the event horizon. When one is holding the perfect liberation plan about to expire, why wait? Alney lamb the venue, Sir Annex did preside, siege declared over, willing civilian and special guests arrive. Will humanity take center stage or have its plan be denied? Now is the time to act. Instead of us looking forwards and backwards, once we do what's right, this temporal war ends. What this plan does no other could begin to imagine. Not only will it stop the endless wars, but it puts in place the means to demand, protect, and defend basic source-gifted rights for all human manifestations, a grassroots movement begun by some of our heroes a day after the good-to-go confirmation came from the GFW emissary. The Uru-Ana Protectorate would become the ultimate difference maker, a unification of benevolence. With unlimited resources from all true defenders of Source, the UAP offers wide-ranging assistance and aid to transition from enslavement to empowerment and free those whose rights were violated by Class 3 malevolence. A proof of concept tested here to make selfless dreams realized for assisters and assistees willing to silence screams, not debate, and go where no man has gone before. A charitable entity sans enemies, to right the wrongs, a galactic peace corps to meet and prioritize urgent needs, facilitate ascension, and hasten disclosure. Adding 7 basic human rights to universal law and proclaiming number 4, the right to egress and ingress one's planet to facilitate a mass civilian off-planet contact event. Those who enabled this effort directly and indirectly and consented to represent awakened humanity at the event horizon as galactic heroes gather unsieged in Orion's belt, the dominion of a source-hating queen, but just one leg of Nautilus, galactic axis of evil. Where all was lost, victory now awaits, thanks to off-planet heroes who cracked the code, dismembering her. Yet until our universal balance is fixed, the Bill of Rights for all human manifestations is the legal nexus for UAP intervention and assistance. The line in the sand must now be drawn, to see who's who, not to divide, or our mom, not to root. A common denominator suddenly realized as each embraced humanity's side, with 41 gifts to open eyes of every being galaxy-wide. As collaborating heroes engaged, frequencies achieved exceeded the range, culminating in a consciousness wave to get one and all to winner's circle. As heroes from Earth and parts unknown arrive, the anticipation and excitement allow us to access relevant lives, involving one another and other conscious expanding, mind-bending, unforeseen things. The bigger the reveal's impact individually, collectively, relative to the experiencer's density, correlate proportionally with the magnitude of the collective wave generated. That once amplified and directed outward by those above, tasked with raising our galactic frequency in all matrices and beyond, changes everything for everyone, everywhere, all at once, for the better, ending the temporal war victoriously, creating a probability-possibility vortex, a now moment that all agree does not exist in any timeline, to serve as a temporal delineation point like AAD and BC are used here, but galactically. So no matter one's location, time, space-time, even if unaware, the change is noticeable, magically done with one unified act, walking Peril's path, falsely believing everything is of source, supremely negative AI-connected, fractalless beings exist. Morality requires love and compassion, not stupidity or fear. There are conscious beings outside our linear time and physicality, saying ultimately, source wins. The multiverse isn't subvertible. If so, why do they worry? If not, they better be. At the Civil War's height, as deaths mounted and morale sank, Abe Lincoln was asked, "Do you pray for God to be on your side?" His answer, "No, I pray that I'm on the side of God. Do you?" To fulfill our destiny, facilitating Naturu's rise, who thereafter becomes the shining example for all, mothers with similar cancers to find their key and better reflect our source. The belief everything already happened, time is meaningless, is a disempowering, limiting belief. Empowerment involves choosing to embody source, not to oppose it. See you at the siege soon.
And I just want to say in closing, remarkably, when we were doing this document, we knew that on the bottom third, it was going to have some kind of image. And I thought it was going to have like the middle finger again, to be honest. But me and Dee did research after that, and we came across an image that I will add to the bottom of this. And so a being that we were not aware of, but basically that reflects the God of truth. C.S. Sutra, which we knew nothing about, but I'll attach it just for your own empowerment. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you.
Dee, for participating. We will have the other 4 packages are going to involve other people, and we'll send them as soon as they're done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.